lead us on this while you're desperately trying to play through it?
Oh my god. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Okay, well, I'm Grey Wolf. I have people with me. People, say your names while I desperately play.
People! I'm Cody.
Or sometimes Yoda.
Or sometimes
Sometimes.
Right.
I should change all my things to just be
And Yoda, did you finish the game?
I did finish the game. I finished it
Aww.
earlier the week.
Man, I thought I'd catch you.
I thought
I cheated, though. I used the walkthrough.
Oh, well, I mean, that's basically what I said, use a walkthrough. Because some of these games are really obtuse, and we'll talk about that during this podcast, because that is a thing that happens in this game.
Yeah.
So I also have Schoolers with me. Say hello, Schoolers.
Hey, everybody.
And did you finish the game?
No, because due to my own idiocy, I had screwed the game up pretty. Screwed up my own game.
Ahsoka's really mad at you for it, too.
I know it.
Yeah, he is. We can hear it in the background. Do you want to tell us a story now, or do you want to tell us it later?
Well, let's introduce Nikolai, and then.
Yeah, sure.
I'm here too.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Okay.
Whoa.
Hello there.
And
Yay.
I did indeed finish the game.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're 2 for 2 here. 2 of us didn't finish it.
Yeah.
And 50%
So
fine, yeah.
It's not bad.
Well, to be fair, you finished it a long time ago.
Yeah, you've played it, so...
Yeah. I just
Right,
was like,
yeah,
There's
I
your
did.
memory,
I mean,
man.
I played it a long time ago. I played it when it came out. So we talked about it last week. I'm not going to go over that again. That was 1993. So basically, for me, this is just a replay to refresh my memory. Still desperately playing in the background, which is very good. So, Schoolers, you made a mess. Tell us about that. Let's start there.
Yeah,
Because that is a thing that I want to bring up.
So, I didn't play it at all this week. I was gonna do that, but I don't know. I got lazy and I picked up another game that sucked me in. Anyway, I decided to go ahead and play through it this morning before the podcast, and I got most of the way through. I think into the subway tunnels, and then there's a spot where you put a light bulb in a socket. And next to that light bulb hole, that socket, is a big hole in the wall. And if you walk in front of that wall, a monster kills you.
Right.
And you have to load a save game. Well, I hadn't saved my game.
That would be okay, except
Yeah, I hadn't saved my game for over an hour.
for a while.
Yeah. So
And the game's that's like a fifth of the length of the game. So
yeah, it was quite a ways. And if we were doing this tomorrow, wouldn't matter. I would just
but we're not. We're doing it today.
It was, time constraints.
So it's my fault, basically.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yes,
Your fault.
it's
Cody.
exactly your fault. Tell us why it's your fault.
Because
you're
tomorrow's
doing-
my birthday and I don't want to do anything.
Happy birthday!
Yeah,
Yay.
Happy birthday.
Woo! It's the first podcast.
So I'm
birthday.
being selfish about it, just like every
So he is.
American.
Like, he doesn't want any responsibilities. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So, okay, I did want to talk about that because this is a problem with this game. It is actually possible for you to kill yourself. And the problem with that is that if you haven't saved... Now, they've been trying to design this out of adventure games for a while at this point, where there were states where you could fail. And in this case, if you failed, it was like failure with a side of, oh, by the way, you have to actually go all the way back to the point where you were before. And if you hadn't saved for a while, then you were dead.
That was
And
a problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
and
normally I'm really good at doing that because I am of a time where auto saving was not a thing.
no,
So I'm really good at every so often I'll save a game,
all right.
and I don't know, I just didn't. So
And the thing about this also is the save game systems have changed a lot over the years, because it used to be like in very old games you'd have to get to a certain point and then there'd be like a beacon of light or whatever and you'd walk into that and it would save your game.
yeah,
And then what you'd have to do is you'd have to type a code or whatever to get back to that spot, or you would boot the game, and it would only have one slot. Like famously Final Fantasy 1 only had one slot.
Yeah.
So if you balked yourself somewhere along the line, well, you balked yourself pretty hard.
Yeah.
And the great thing about PC, but I see that we're veering back towards having save spots again, was that you could save anyway. And so with Beneath the Steel Sky, it's one of those games that it doesn't often kill you, but when it kills you, you're dead, and there's no going back unless you have a save game from just before you died.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, they've been trying to get this out of adventure games for a while because they like the whole LucasArts thing, and we'll play a LucasArts game at some point. They were of the opinion that you should never kill the player. It's possible for you to get them maybe stuck a little, like you don't know what to do, but you should never kill them.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. This game sometimes it doesn't hold your hand and it will kill you. The other thing is that, did you guys all notice that halfway through they took your hint system away?
I noticed because I was
because they
using
they
that
actually
like a
killed
crutch.
Joey.
Yeah.
They killed Joey midway through, and the thing about this is that it happens. It's quite funny because you're going from level to level, and as you go down, one of the things that Joey used to be able to do is he used to have like propellers, so he would float down to you if like he was at a point where he could do that. So there comes this point where you get to the bottom of and some people would use Joey, as you say, like a crutch because he had some ideas about what you should do next and where you should go. So he was like a Cedric the Owl, but less stupid. Wow, someone got that. I'm amused.
Oh, yeah. King's Quest V.
King's Quest V. So he's like your Cedric the Owl, but he's witty and he's funny and people generally like him. So there comes this point where you're going down to the lowest level, which is the nicest level, and suddenly, you get to the bottom and you come out and you're like, oh, well, I didn't bring Joey with me, but that'll be okay. And then Joey falls to his death.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, but it's terrible because it takes your hint system away.
Yeah, because you never get him back.
No, you don't. Oh, you might actually. I don't remember very well.
Well, that's true. I guess you might. I didn't finish the game after all. I don't know for sure.
Cody and I know.
No, you do actually. You get him back because we were talking about this pre-podcast.
Yep. You not only do you get him back, he's kind of the reason the game ends.
Yeah. So you want to tell us about that? Someone who's finished it and can spoil it for us.
Yeah.
Who wants to go?
He comes back, but for some reason he thinks his name is Ken, and I'm not sure if I just missed it or don't remember why.
It's something that your character says, like, I think I've got a new name for you, Ken, because...
And then he decides to be Ken from then on.
Just because.
Yeah. Yeah.
So stupid. How about Ken?
Yeah. Well, there is a joke about it. I don't know how much I should spoil, but...
No, you should go ahead and spoil it completely.
Okay, well, it's because...
This is GameClub. We do that.
He's a nude, featureless android. So he looks
doll.
like a Ken doll.
Yeah, okay.
So
Right.
it's not like it's really funny. It's just that's what happened.
It was probably hilarious back in 1992, though.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Then either. The other thing is that also out of nowhere, this game starts getting incredibly dark very quickly.
Oh yeah.
That is the other thing that happens. Like the first half is kind of, sort of because it's we didn't call it a dystopia last week, but it is kind of a dystopia where these people are all trapped in this city essentially, and their every move is watched, and if they do something wrong, they get out of line. They become delinked, and that means that just like you have no rights.
Yeah.
And it turns out that there's a protest movement happening inside of the city, and as you get to know the protest movement, it becomes clear that the people in power in the city are trying to keep this protest movement from doing anything substantial. So you're wandering around at the lowest level of the city, and you find and get into a cathedral, and as you get into the cathedral, you open some lockers, and it turns out that one of the ladies that you were dealing with was one of the resistance, and she ends up very, very dead in a not very nice way at all.
Yeah.
So
that made me sad. Like even the game basically
told
you, it told you right away when she was working in the reactor that was going to happen. when she said, "Well, I don't rate high enough to use an environmental suit," right? So
Yeah.
Right.
you knew at that point that was the end of her character, but I was still hoping that there was some kind of rescue scenario that was going to happen.
Right. But I mean, it's a game from 1993, and it's about a dystopia, so it doesn't really. It has license to kill the characters, and sometimes it does that.
Yeah.
Like we learn further along as we go that Robert's mom wanted to try and escape the city, so she got some of the way, and then the city just terminated her, and that was that.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets very dark very quickly, but it's dark with a funny edge. It's like I don't know if anyone's seen The War of the Roses, which is a super old movie, but that is kind of very black humor all the way through. And this has got a lot of that. Like Joey's funny, and Lamb is funny, but they're all funny in a very dark kind of way.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
is there
Lamb is just like he's so sheltered. He's stuck in a shell. He's in his own world.
Yeah.
All he wants is his factory and his pipes. And that's the only thing he knows.
And like to the point where he's so obsessed with the pipe factory that he takes you on a tour of it.
Yeah. I hope you learned a lot about pipes.
And again, it's funny, but it's so dark.
Pipes,
that's all he knows. And the reason why, you can sort of see why he doesn't want to stick his head out, because if he sticks his head out, he'll die. So he's just become of the opinion that the factory is all that matters. So, Nick, we haven't actually heard a lot from you.
Yeah.
Did you appreciate that kind of?
Well.
Yeah, I like dark humor. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the overt jokes. Usually, there weren't very many haha, this is funny, and then it's like,
that's not.
But it's not.
It sort of undermines itself that way. Like it sets itself up. Yeah, and like Anchor. Was
most
also terrible.
Most of the jokes weren't like actual setup joke payoff. It was just kind of like an observation that happened to be either ironic or somewhat silly.
Yeah,
or
like when you try to use a VCR and he's like, I don't know how to use this.
Yeah,
that's the joke, because nobody
in
the 80s and 90s knew how to program a VCR. It was ridiculous, and that's the joke.
Yeah.
But who cares?
And
it's not a funny joke.
I mean, the writing wasn't really the strongest suit of this game from the start. It's always been the environments. The characters aren't really all that bad either. I kind of thought they were pretty cardboard cutouty, but Joey really grew on me.
The characters, even though the jokes are bad, the characters still have really you know what they are. They're good characters. Most of them.
Most of them. And the thing that I think also adds
people,
to that is
they're all fairly well fleshed out for such a short game. At least I think so.
Right. And I think and I think that helps in this particular case is the voices. Now, when I played it, we didn't have the voices. We just had text, and that was just how that shipped.
Yeah, I think I would rather just have text. I hate the voice actors in this. Everyone has an obnoxious voice. I really don't like it.
And everyone has an obnoxious accent too.
And they're so fake and terrible. I don't know. But I guess it's campy. Like we mentioned that last time too. It's campy like that for a reason, right? It's just to add levity. But
because this is basically really dark, Because there comes a point where we're talking to the guard who isn't really guarding anything. He's just like, I'm standing here, but he's really guarding a thing. And you actually make the observation that the city is like a prison, and he's like, it is what it is. And that's really what it is.
Whatever.
It's fine. Everything's okay. The city is a prison, but everyone loves it.
Yeah.
And like various people that you meet when you tell them you want to leave the city, they're like, why?
Why?
The only thing that's out there is the gap. And then there's this creepy woman that shows up, and you have a very, like, the whole thing is surreal. You go into an apartment, and the music changes from like what it is into this very sleazy Let's Shoot Larry type music.
Yeah.
And when I was in
Yeah.
there in 1993, I was like, oh god, this didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Something bad's gonna go down.
I
Something
remember
terrible is going to
that.
happen. And she actually almost leads you along that path too, because, you know, like her first dialogue option is, you know, why don't you want to go into the club anymore? And she's like, oh no, the memories. And you're like, okay, fine. Tell me about your memories. She's like, she was a wild flower. And you're like, oh no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and
So
then
the
she gets up
characters
to
are
get on
kind
the
of-
phone, and she's in like this negligee for no reason.
Yeah, and it's super weird.
And it's a pretty disturbing image actually. I didn't appreciate that, but whatever. I mean, it worked, I guess, with the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, you know, when we're talking about it. We're talking about the characters, and the characters matter a lot to this game because they're all, where the setting is very dark. The characters are fairly light, and they're all kind of funny. Some of them are
Right.
disturbing funny, like Lamb and this woman, but they're all generally funny, you know, in some way.
Yeah, the most entertaining part that I found, again, because I didn't finish the game, there may be
Right.
more, but was when you're in court.
Oh
And-
yes, the court section.
And the judge is like
Oh,
a
yeah.
game show host, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Right.
even
And-
the security, the city security logo lights up, and it's
Right.
like it's like playing a game show. It's really I thought
Right,
that was
and also
funny,
what's funny
actually.
about that is that you can basically say any of the lines and you'll be okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's no
there
failure
was
there.
no. Yeah.
There was no failure.
I-
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I
Nick.
chuckled a few times. I'm just saying it was funny.
Yeah.
Right. So, does anyone else have any other sort of favorite moments? So, Scroolers, if you have a favorite moment apart from that, or I don't know if you played that part.
I don't know that there's really much as far as favorite moments go. They're again back towards characters like the gardener, very
Yeah,
much
the
Crocodile
gardener.
Dundee.
Yes, the gardener's funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's dandelions. Well, they're blue.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
and
that's
that one's
fine.
the blue. And you go next door, and they're like, "No, they're yellow."
Yeah,
Um,
I was like, wait.
That's not right.
Yeah, and I like that guy. And I don't know. I guess I like the club maitre d', the guy at the beginning of the club.
Oh, he's also very good.
Oh yeah, he was cool.
Again,
Yeah.
because he's leading you down this path where you start the conversation with him, and he's like, "This is the lowest level of the city, and so everything is very nice,
Yeah.
and you know everyone's like an upstanding citizen because they're an A-Link, and so you think that you know this is a super exclusive club, and he's like, nah, not
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Uh,
Kind of seedy in there. It's pretty
yeah,
shitty.
yeah.
Looks okay.
Yeah.
Looks okay at night,
fine.
but Yes.
Do you have any favorite moments?
Oh, all my favorite moments are the LINC puzzles. That's the best thing. In
Oh,
the world.
God.
Those are
Okay.
my favorite.
And those are your favorite. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. Do you want to talk about them now, though? Because they're your
Sure.
favorite.
They
So-
most of the puzzles in this game are fine. I really wouldn't need a walkthrough, and the LINC ones I could figure out if I spent enough time, but I don't need to double
Yeah,
this game's
but-
length.
Right.
Because they're not very well
And
done.
in 1993, that's exactly what happened if you didn't
Yeah.
do it with a walkthrough. Because most of the puzzles are, like you say, they're fair. You know, it's like,
Yeah, they don't point me in
There's-
the direction, but they're not the most unobvious things in the world. It's not like Grim
No.
Fandango where I have to collect a hat to build a fishing pole.
yeah, which
Right.
was terrible, by the way. But like for example, there's little knock-on puzzles. So you'll start a puzzle in one section of the game, and then you'll play in, and you'll get down to another level, and you'll do a little bit more, and you'll do a little bit more until you've got the whole thing. Like for example, there's a puzzle that starts when you go into Richter's apartment, and you get the notice on the screen is like, oh, by the way, this is a food machine, but he doesn't know how to use it, and the puzzle starts there.
Yeah.
Where you go into another house, and the next thing you do is use you pick up a video cassette recorder, and then it also mentions that there's a food machine in there. So you learn that these food machines start the whole place, and you have to actually use one at some point, and then you use the video cassette that you got in another section of the same puzzle to go and distract a dog so you can get his food.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of tied together. But they're all fair, because there's nothing too out of the ordinary there.
No,
and then
when you need to get across a chasm, you use a grappling hook. It's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And then there's these LINC sections. So if you weren't listening last week, let's talk about LINC quickly. LINC is kind of what they thought the internet would look like. It's all 3D, and there's basically things guarding pieces of information, like eyes and that sort of thing. And it's not always super obvious what you have to do in the LINC sections, because I think their take on it was that if Robert is a neophyte to all this, then you must be too. But I don't think that's fair in this case because you're playing a game.
Yeah.
So they could have had a tutorial level for LINC that sort of explained what was going on the first time he got into LINC, or at least had the possibility of running a tutorial in LINC, because it's set up to be able to do all kinds of things, but they never do that.
Yeah, and LINC space is pretty damn obscure, right? You go in, you're like, what the hell is going on in here?
Yeah. And it sucks because I like the look of it. I think the idea of what the internet would look like is kind of cool.
Right.
Especially considering the rest of the themes of the world, I think it fits in. It's just the puzzles themselves for LINC are
really terrible.
Yeah, they're incomprehensible.
There's no other way to put them because they're not comprehensible at all.
Yeah, there are time sections and there's no warning for that. It's just like
it's just like
eventually they'll figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not the good kind of figuring out. We talk about on the other podcast about Dark Souls. And we talked about it more or less extensively. Dark Souls will teach you how these things work.
Yeah, these you don't feel like you figured anything out. You just go, I just pressed buttons until it worked.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Yoda, what was your least favorite LINC section?
My least favorite LINC section, probably the one. What's the one that you do after you find the art piece in the plaza? There's the puzzle that you have to do where he's like, if that's art, I must be missing something, and then you have to solve the puzzle. And then you have to do the LINC piece after that. That LINC one was where I basically went, nope, getting a walkthrough, and I'd only ever consult it every time I was like, oh, LINC, okay, Alt Tab, and let's find that puzzle, and that's how I played the game.
Right.
Which I don't remember that one. That LINC was is the bad guy.
Right.
He's your dad.
Yeah, Dad.
He's your daddy.
We're gonna get to that in a minute too.
You're not my father.
Yeah. And the thing is that it starts creeping up in the second half of the game where, you realize that Foster is Foster because his mom and dad, well, not his dad, his mom tried to get them out of the city, and it didn't quite work out for her, but it worked out for him. And his dad is sort of doing this manhunt looking for him again, trying to find him, and it takes 30 years, but eventually his dad catches up with him. And it creeps in slowly, but the whole thing only kind of comes to fruition right at the end, where you decide that you're not actually going to be part of this and you don't want any part of it at all. And it ends up being basically a war of walls between you and your dad. So let's talk about that very quickly. Did Nick, when you played this, because obviously at the beginning of the second half where we got to the end of the first LINC puzzle, you must have sort of started to see this coming. And the whole thing with your father.
Oh yeah.
Did you like that sort of twist to it? Did you not like it? What was going on there for you?
Well, I didn't really get that Well, I don't know. Are we spoiling everything? Is everything
Yeah,
spoiled?
It's a game club.
Okay.
Let's assume they've beat it at this point. So.
Okay, so well, when I walked in, there's the last screen where there's you find out that your father is Link.
Yes.
And
or Link has taken your father as a host.
Yeah, something like that. He's the CPU of Link.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the bad guy in Tron.
Yeah. And like I was like, oh, and it was like, oh, I didn't really expect that specifically, but it was like, oh, that totally makes sense. And
yeah, I'll also admit that one was the thing that caught me off guard. I was like, oh, I genuinely didn't expect me to be this important to the world.
But I did mention that, like, the first time we played it, it does do that in the last 5 minutes. It's a very it is a thing that you can see coming because there are hints of it all the way through, but it's not something that you would see coming unless you were actually looking for it.
Yeah, right. And it's not like it's just a total throw ball that makes no sense at all. And like Nick said, it could fit in with the story and everything. So I was genuinely surprised by it. I was like, oh, so they had an idea for a story. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I sort of figured that something like that was going to happen, and I will reiterate, I did not finish the game. Blah blah blah. But but when you talk to the lady with the dog, I can't remember her name now, Miss S or Miss P or when you talk to her and you ask her, is my father alive? And she just goes, well, I haven't seen him for years.
Yeah, and
that's not a yes, it's not a no, but it's like that's the game hinting, well, he's probably still around somewhere.
Yeah, I expected to meet him, but I didn't expect to meet him in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing is we've talked a bit about this. Yodi, you keep talking about the environments. Were there any particularly standout environments for you? Was there something that you really liked? Because
tons.
You like the artist that drew these.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what I really like about almost every environment is that none of them feels sterile. Every environment feels like it's been there for a while, even in a 8-bit environment. You can see the grime laid out on the floors and on the walls and stuff like that, especially towards the end when you start getting to like the weird like blood veins and shit on the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does get very weird very quickly.
Yeah.
It gets like almost sort of H.R. Geiger-esque for a bit there, and then you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. I think I probably like the pool environment with the palm trees and stuff a lot.
Oh yes, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And there's a funny thing that
because it's a nice change of pace from everything just being grimdark cyberpunky.
Right, and also because everything is sort of beige and brown and sort of washed out.
Yeah, you get to see the colors pop a lot better.
I did like in that area that it was a circle. You could go all the way around the pool.
Yeah.
And there were puzzles that involved people going around the circle.
Yes. And what's also awesome about that is that there's a funny thing that you do in the circle with the dog.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Well, no, that was it. I liked the environments, too. I thought they were all really, like, they felt real.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but they sort of matched their classism.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Like the further up and down you go in the world, you can definitely see the quality of life changing for the people who live there.
Yeah.
And it's super obvious because the top people are all like, this is where they work and this is all they do, and that you imagine that they live in tiny apartments that have like one room and nothing else. And then you go down level and it's a little nicer. It's not brown, it's sort of beige, but it's not great yet. There's still it looks terrible. Like if you walk into Anchor's Anchor and the travel agent, their places look extremely bare.
Yeah,
it's not like there's much happening there.
Yeah, and
then you go
it's
down,
filthy outside. There's trash strewn everywhere and rusting.
And then in their apartments, it's It's not like
It's almost nice.
It's almost nice. Yeah, almost nice is a good way to put it.
And then you go down one more level, and like you actually get to go into an apartment, and it's a nice place. You know, it has an extra. Okay, admittedly, it's a creepy place because there's a woman who's like Liz Larry.
If you redecorated and removed the people that live there, it'd be a nice place to live.
But it's great also that like it follows its own internal logic, and it follows its own internal logic pretty strongly because they talk about the D-links. You know, they talk about how the higher up you go, the worse off you are, and it's very cool to see it actually mirrored out in actual the game environments too.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of games from this era didn't understand that. They would like get it hopelessly wrong. You'd walk from one screen to another, and then the one on the left it would be, you know, it would look wonderful, and then you'd walk to the right, and suddenly you're standing next to a ramshackle house, and you're like, how did we go from that to that?
Yeah.
And in this
did we
game,
just cross
it
town?
actually-
Or, yeah.
Yeah, and in this game it's great because it's got its own internal logic, so every level is beautiful and looks different. Would you guys recommend this to anyone, do you think?
I'd say if you can't find anything to play and you want to play something but you're not sure what to do and you don't want to spend any money on anything, this is not the worst waste of your time because the puzzles are mostly good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adventure game enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Yes. Do apply. Also, I would also add like people who are interested in seeing how the late 80s and early 90s envisioned the internet. This is worth playing for that because there's they were building on top of, and you can see they were building on top of things like Snow Crash and Neuromancer and that kind of thing, and they were trying to bring that kind of idea to the computer, and not a lot of games have done that, which is quite interesting. Is that there aren't a lot of cyberpunk games, and part of the reason why I wanted to get this one played on GameClub was just so that people, you know, had a chance to see a really weird game with a really weird take on cyberpunk and cyberpunk themes.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot with that. Like they talk about you get a chip in the back of your head at some point. You go inside of a very 3D matrixy environment that you can walk around, and it's sort of cool, you know. So I would say if you were interested in very early cyberpunk, this is also a game that you should check out. And I think
I agree.
That about does it. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
Well, I'll give my recommendation for it too.
Sure
I guess I was not a huge fan of this game from the beginning because I just find a lot of it to be really obnoxious.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fair.
I'm an adventure guy, like adventure games, and yeah, I think the puzzles in this were moderately challenging, I'll say, but yeah, certainly solvable without too much headache.
Usually.
Link Space, usually.
Usually.
Link Space is pretty obscure, but the game comes with a walkthrough, and
right. And the walkthrough is great. It's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's a good walkthrough. So yeah, I think yeah, if you're really into adventure games and you want something for the low price of absolutely free,
this is worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. Yeah, the artist is good. The voice acting is freaking terrible, but you can really turn off the sound.
You can turn it off.
Get over it pretty quickly. Honestly, it's not the worst voice acting I've ever heard in a game.
Yeah, it's not the absolute worst. I think mostly it's the voices themselves that really mess with me because you know, some of the pronunciations of things, like, you know, when Foster says kebab, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, you have to understand that this game was made in the UK by Revolution Software, who are making a game about an American cyberpunk dystopia.
Right. Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, it's super weird because the voices don't match up. Because some people are Australian, some people are French, some people are like very English.
And that's okay because that just adds diversity to the world that you're in.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a
I
big
thought that was
sprawling
pretty cool.
city, so that never even crossed my mind while I was playing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the voice acting really surprised me. Is like when you run into Crocodile Dundee, and
Oh, yeah.
you talk to him, and it's like, okay, a gardener, he's working on the flowers, and then he starts with his, I don't know, I can't do an Australian accent.
Do
but
it now
Right.
anyway. Try. Let's
No,
offend
I
our
can't.
Australian audience.
I cannot, and I will not. But it's quite surprising. It really
Yeah.
punches you in the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, that one was bad.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because you've also got like kind of the little boy playing his video game with kind of a posh British accent.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's like you talk to, and they're standing right next to each other, so it's really
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe that denotes a little more of the classism, right? The kid is
maybe.
It does. Because I mean, it's totally possible that the kid was an A-Link and he was fine, and then the gardener's just there because he's supposed to do this job.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
what's his name? Like Roberto or Rodrigo or something like that?
Yeah.
He's Australian. Terribly Australian.
Something like that. Very Australian.
A little, yeah, it was a little weird, but yeah, I think I would recommend it overall. Again, to any adventure game enthusiast, because
Yeah, if you're not into them, you're not gonna want to.
if
yeah,
you're not really into
this is-
adventure games, there
This
are way
isn't
better
gonna. This
adventure
isn't gonna
games.
sell you on adventure games. That's
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. Sorry. I mean, if you want a game like that, we could recommend one for you in the future. But this is
Yeah.
not that game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is it ever not? You can die. You know, it's not an adventure game. It is an okay adventure game. It's not an okay adventure game to give someone as their first adventure game.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Thank you, Nick, for showing up again.
Well, thank you.
And,
Yeah.
being with us. I have had a couple of people with me, but before we go, we're going to roll for another game.
yeah.
So let's do that real quickly.
Really fast.
We have two things.
We've got two things left.
that
So first up, we got Ultimate Spider-Man will be the choice if we roll a 1, and Alien Isolation will be the choice if we roll a 2. I have to
Rolling a D2.
I actually have to set up the D2.
rolling a
D2.
D2.
Flipping a coin.
Roll a D2. Roll a D2. And it's a 2.
Alien Isolation.
Alien Isolation.
Okay, well, that's the game I'm setting out of. Good luck.
You're gonna eat some popcorn and watch somebody play through it, huh?
I might do that, but I might not because it's a scary game, and we all know how I feel about that.
Do it in the middle of the day. Turn all the lights on.
Do it. Fine.
That's what I do. If there's a game that's really, really scary, you just don't play it at night
Yeah,
alone.
No, I'm gonna play this at night alone. I'm gonna lock the door to this room. I'm gonna have my headphones on. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have a,
It is
bucket ready
really
in case I piss
immersive.
myself. It'll be great.
It is really, really immersive. I actually really, I'm glad we're gonna play it.
Saying you're gonna have a bedpan in your room with you for that moment where you do
always
need to
sitting
go
on
and
Yeah,
There you
just,
go.
yeah, just
Just
It'll be like
just in
those-
case.
I saw a pretty
It'll be like-
creative one with a moose on it at a hardware
Oh
store
my
the other
God.
day, so I'll just go grab that.
Oh yeah, 10 out of 10.
So
Great.
it will be like the World of Warcraft South Park episode, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. Ma'am.
There you go.
Just
Right.
hold this
Uh,
here for me.
Yeah, there you go. I have had Yoda with me. Say goodbye, Yoda.
Goodbye, Yoda.
I have had Mr. Screwloose with me. Say goodbye, Mr. Screwloose.
bye everyone.
I have had Nick with me. Nick is a special guest. We don't always get him around, so thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun.
Sure thing. I am Grey Wolf / Lost Wolf. And Yoda's trying to say something. Say something, Yoda.
No, I'm just like, yay, we all had fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad. And I hope that you all enjoy Alien Isolation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for
we
joining
will
us,
have to
folks.
tell George to get on that, but yes, please do join us in playing Alien Isolation. I'm not sure how long it is or where we'll get to, but we'll post that
You
information
said
up as
it
soon
was
as we can.
quite long,
It's
so
about
you're
20
going to
hours.
be stuck in it
Okay.
for a while.
Might be a couple week venture. That's fine. All right.
Yeah. Bye-bye, folks.